Edrinna Marie. Real talk, real stories with Edrinna Marie.
Hey guys, this is your girl Edrinna Marie, Real Talk, Real Stories in the building at Reverb Hard Rock Cafe Radio, guys. I have the roundtable discussion and it's about to go down in the ATL, okay? Today's roundtable discussion, I'm so excited to have some of my favorite close friends, Charles D. Rambo, who is running for sheriff for the Fulton County election coming up, and my Uncle Stoney. Okay, now I'll tell you his real name later, but right now he's my uncle, you understand? Okay, in the building. And we're gonna get to these topics, but we're gonna start talking to Mr. Charles Rambo that's running for office for Fulton County Sheriff. And guys, this is really so inspirational to me because you all been wanting to hear some of the facts that have been going on behind the scenes with our sheriff's departments, police departments. So we're here to set the record straight and get some great topics about what's going on in our city, right here in Atlanta. Your girl Edrinna Marie, Real Talk, Real Stories, here at Reverb Radio, Hard Rock. And we're going to start this table discussion off with Mr. Rambo in the building. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your show.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm so excited to jump into these topics. You guys gave us some great topics over the past couple of days, and we're gonna just get to the bottom of it. So I wanted to know what drove you into wanting to run for office. Run for sheriff this year.
I didn't.
Okay.
This isn't a driving for me. This is a calling.
Okay.
And I'm often reminded when you go back to the book of Exodus with Moses. Moses had to be called, and when he came and answered the call, he said, well, God, who am I supposed to tell these folk that sent me?
Right.
Well, I am that I am.
Right.
So I am Charles Rambo. I am running for Fulton County Sheriff.
You better
I'm
say
calling
that.
into an existence no more than what the Creator has bestowed for me to become. I originally started off in the funeral industry.
Oh, wow. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I started off 12 years old in Gary, Indiana, working in a funeral home, and that was my life's goal and ambition. I went into the United States Air Force Reserve, left San Antonio, and the calling came on my life to come to Atlanta. I wanted to settle in Texas.
I'm glad he came here, guys.
Well, I am glad too, because again, you have to answer according to the calling that's put on your life. That's how you know is because when you don't understand these things, they become to make you understand it better by and by. You know how you sing inside a weak street.
Bye, okay?
Well, to fast forward, the narrative is that I am running for sheriff, and I'm running on a platform called the Constitutional Sheriff Initiative.
Wow, the Constitutional Sheriff Initiative. Guys, that sounds so awesome. Now, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the Constitutional Sheriff Initiative makes the office specific to the function of which it was created for by the state. The state designates the office of sheriff as one of 4 constitutional officers inside of a county.
Wow,
you hear so much narrative in terms of the difference between policing and sheriff. Sheriff is constitutionally mandated for each county to have, because that is what we know as the chief law enforcement officer
now,
of the
does
county.
you have to have a sheriff for each individual county, or tell me how that works?
All 159 counties in the state of Georgia are required by law to have a sheriff. So if you never have a police department, you're constitutionally bound to have a sheriff's office, and we'll talk more into that in a hot second. But for 34 years, without ever being elected to the position, I've always been acting in the capacity.
Righteous.
Whether that's been as the union president, whether that has been on the streets, whether that's been inside of the jail, whether that's been inside
I
the
read upon
courts.
that you actually train a master trainer for the officers for the state of Georgia. Now, that's big.
Yeah, now I have to make that correction, and I appreciate the designation, but by Georgia Post standards, I'm actually a senior instructor. I'm just a couple of steps away from getting my master instructor's certification, but nonetheless, I teach and train everyone from sheriffs all the way down to line staff
And guys, that's
officers.
very important because, see, we wanted to have someone on this discussion that can be very transparent for us because we were really dealing with a lot of issues with police brutality and stuff like that going on, the call and response for our officers to get on scenes and stuff like that. So today we have an in-depth conversation and with Rambo that's gonna blow your mind, guys, and that's what we want to hear. We want to hear the actual facts about, just like you described. I didn't know they had that many sheriffs in our county. Like, we had to have that many sheriffs in our county that runs the police department.
Yeah,
like,
each
that's new for me, buddy.
each county is required to have 4 constitutional officers.
Constitutional officers. See, it's different from state officers and constitutional officers. See, that's where the transparency is coming in right now.
Where did the term sheriff, where did it originate?
The term sheriff actually originates from England, and I want to go back even further.
Okay.
And it was called the sheriff's office in England, the Shrivalty.
Shavolti.
And the sheriff was basically enumerated in what was known as the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta.
What does that mean?
The Magna Carta was the foundation for law in England, just as the Magna Carta set the standard for United States constitutionalism.
Oh, wow.
A lot of the freedoms and privileges that are listed in the Magna Carta are found directly inside of the United States Constitution. In fact, the sheriff, I want to say it was in Virginia, was one of the persons who actually helped to bring that particular Magna Carta into the United States.
As a system that works for law.
Because the sheriff was acting on behalf of the crown. He was acting on behalf of the crown
Okay.
when you dealt with the colonies. I could go deep into the history of Oglethorpe through Georgia, so forth, so on. But the rich history has not always been the best history.
Right.
But at the same time, it is a powerful organization that we can rely upon. And I'm about to really hit you with something that your audience can go and research right now. Go to Daniel 3rd chapter and the 3rd verse. We're not going. Yes.
Daniel, the 3rd chapter and the 3rd verse.
Yes.
So listeners, are you watching? Because I usually have my Bible, it's over there, but he's hitting us with the word. I can't even knock it, okay?
Hey, well, watch this. I'm not getting ready to preach.
That's
but
okay, I'm with it.
Daniel 3rd chapter, 3rd verse talks about in the days of Nebuchadnezzar of all the persons who were required to be there before the golden image. Now notice I'm not even reading from the text.
Righteous.
When you find that there were certain officials that were there that were required to bow down before this golden image that Nebuchadnezzar had crafted, those persons were named specifically in the 3rd chapter.
Wow.
The princes, the counselors, the treasurers, and the sheriff.
Wow.
The sheriff goes all the way back to Babylonian times. So it is one of the oldest
History
law
times.
enforcement agencies in the world. But at the end of the day, were those sheriffs standing up? Were those counselors standing up? We can look at criminal justice systems today.
That's
And
right.
to see who is standing up, and that's the reason why you have such a diverse and dissatisfied crowd, because when you look at the names of the boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they
okay.
were being persecuted by this very government that was on their knees.
Wow.
To include the sheriff.
Wow.
So I say again, who sent you in what you're doing, Charles Rambo? I am that, what I am. And if that means that there's a sacrifice into that, then that's what I have to do, because that's what my mom raised me to be, is to stand up on my own 2 feet and not bend and bow for anything.
For anything. Well, praise God. Now, listen, guys, we're going to bring my Uncle Stoney in on this. And yes, he want me to say his real name, but this is my uncle. You understand what I'm saying? And this is one of his mentor friends. They came into this industry together, and I want to love on them so that we can have this dialect of conversation. And we want to bring you in, Stoney.
Okay, so my topic today will be community policing.
Right.
We have to understand that the community needs to tell the police how to come into their community and police them. Okay?
Right.
And you have to have a sheriff that has an open door policy that will allow those community members to come in and join hands, because the police aren't always around in the community. Okay?
And I'm first hands for that. I definitely understand that.
And I know down at Wheat Street Baptist Church, you know it firsthand.
Yeah, man. I mean, we have to really police our community, because, you know, it's just really enlightening to see steps of the community trying to do that. But when it gets to the point where you have to bring law enforcement in, that's where the bearing comes on the community.
Yeah, because the police come in, and sometimes they don't have the community know-with-all, the understanding of the politics inside that community. Right. And so they come in living from outside the community, and they come in and they say, well, someone called the police and someone's going to jail today.
Right, and that whole mentality.
Because you brought us out here, that means someone's
right, the
going to jail.
mentality
but
of that.
But in actuality, it says on the side of the cars, you see it, it says protect and serve. That means protect the people and serve the people.
No, I did.
Forget that.
I did from my experience, and I grew up over here on the west side of Atlanta, and from my experience, from what we have learned from the dialect of officers that come over here, we don't get that protect and serve. Like it's not even assessed. Like you said, when they're called, somebody's going to jail. It's not the protection or service that they're providing. So we have found out that, from just off experience, that we really don't want to call the cops.
So it's more likely that you want to police your own kind of way.
We'd rather police our own people. And have some type of structure implemented that can give us those values of knowing that we can assess it before we call the cops. And if it gets to the point where we have to bring the cops in to that community, then they're coming in to not even assess. They know what's going on, and they are going to lock somebody up.
So what I heard you say was that we want to call the police when we see certain people on the corners. We want to call the police when we come back and forth from work and we see something going on. We want to have that phone number to the watch commander.
Right.
And that means that we don't have to call 911.
We don't have to call 911, because some of these situations are not as extreme, but then they turn into one of those situations like we had a mother from the west side that got gunned down 78 times. It probably was more than that. But she was in her home. She starts shooting at the cops. When they bust down her door, they were at the wrong house, and they end up letting loose on this elder. So in that type of situation, like even when they're coming in for SWAT and all that stuff, it has to be more addressed in knowing the assessments of these communities before we send these officers that are being trained. What is your feel, Rambo, on that?
So I will give you two analogies. And first and foremost, the sheriff is an elected position that represents the need of the people, not the government. That's the first thing.
That's good to know. So you guys are specifically here for the people.
We are specifically directly responsible to the electorate of our counties. With that, I learned from Baba, the late Dick Gregory. I actually did security for him.
Oh, praise God.
And he said something to me so powerful. The worst thing that a man can do is to be anointed to do something and give excuses on Judgment Day of why it did not get done. So with that, watch where we're going, is that as that pertains to community, when you are elected by a community, you have nothing but their best interest at heart.
That's right.
The second portion that he said on stage at the performance, he said to the crowd essentially that, do you live in a community? Because a community has assets to its politicians. A community has access to its government functions.
Right.
And if you don't have those, you don't live in a community, you live in a hood.
Okay.
Watch where I'm going with that. Watch again, where we patrol becomes the mentality and the nucleus of the communities that we're coming in, that can we entrust that you will be able to govern your own affairs.
Righteous.
Otherwise, there is still a need for policing. There's still a need for sheriff to come in, that where you are not able to where you're not able to take care of those issues, we come in and we can establish that authority. where I hear it best and where it's most profound, if you go to the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, New York,
Okay.
and you look at the Hasidic Jewish community that essentially has their own system like this. But this is a community
It's a community.
that has control and has access to its government officials as well as its government centers. One of the other key things that we have to do with that community, as you said, is to be able to have ties. This is where we miss it as black folks, and I'm giving you some nuggets that you can take with you. Where we miss out is that when our children get in trouble, they don't have ties and connection to communities. If you go back to Wheat Street Baptist Church under Dr. Borders, that was a tie.
It's a tie, baby.
When you went back to Ebenezer Church with Daddy King, that was a tie.
It's a
When
tie.
you went to Howard Creasy Sr., that was a tie to the community that could come to the court and say, Your Honor, we will take responsibility
For
for
this.
this person's actions. And if we cannot rehabilitate him, then we will come back and turn him over to you. So it's not
Right.
just a police responsibility, it's a
Righteous.
community
Righteous.
responsibility.
We are the change, okay? Guys, you gotta be the change if you wanna see the change. You gotta be the change. And I'm excited you broke that down to us because sometimes you only look from one perspective of the light, like spectrum of the light on this corner. And a lot of us are not properly educated on how the chain of commands work with this. And it's going to take all of the bodies, all the community unities to come together so that we can really get down to these issues that needs to be solved. And not saying that we can clear up everything, but we can clear up the first steps.
What I would love to do is part of my platform deals with community supervision. And that comes back to if they're inmates that are eligible for release, conditional bond releases back into communities. Number one, you're going to have to show me. I'm not just releasing you just
You
to go back out to
understand?
be the same damn
You
fool that you were
understand?
before you came
You
here.
understand? Do you understand?
You got to show me that you are going to some ties in the community that is giving you some education,
That's
giving
right.
you some employment,
That's
and
right.
you're going back. And I can say this because Stone can attest to this, and any other deputy that watches this. The sheriff's office, wherever we go in communities, we have the most touch tone with people. I can go to a martyr stage, Rambo, Rambo, Stone A, Stone A, because they remembered that inside of the jail we treated them as
Like
humans.
Oh, say that
We treated
right.
them as grown men, and we held them accountable and responsible to manhood. Where that's at today, I don't know. But that's what you can expect with me is to have a community supervision program that says, all right, we're going to release you on bond. We're going to release you on conditional bond if you're showing us that you're going back to a community that's going to accept and nurture you.
Most definitely.
We will come in from time to time to ensure that you're in perspective, in check, and that develops our ties to the community.
Well, I definitely would like to bring
that
something.
builds community as
And
well.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I
Please.
definitely like to bring that whole united effort into Wheat Street. And you've been over there too, Stoney,
Yes.
Uncle Stoney. And so you kind of see the dynamics of what the need is there because we have a lot of people that need rehabilitation.
Yes.
And it's like I can say when they get out of jail, if they're not committing a crime, they're definitely stuck on this drug academic. And they're stuck on the drug academic where it's sad you see. And like for me as a woman, I've been doing ministry over there at Wheat Street since I was 6. And so to walk the streets now and to try to bring in my perspective of what I know that the community needs. They do want to get off the drugs, but then when they get off the drugs or they want to stop committing crimes, where do they go to get these first steps?
So I think what I'm hearing you say, that while they're in jail, they need to have some kinds of bridge to come out to the public. And that
Right.
way they can learn their GED, they can learn computer skills, they can learn things that will help them with their self-motivation to when they get out on the street, they won't go back and do the same things that they were doing before. So I
Right.
think that you're trying to implement.
So,
and if you
what
had a
kinda-
sheriff, if you had a sheriff like Rambo,
I mean,
you
we
would
gonna
have
get a
those
sheriff
kind-
like
you would
Rambo.
have those kinds
Let me
of
tell
things.
you guys something. Like y'all out here playing and talking about what you're doing. You're not doing what you say you're gonna do. Let's just put the bottom line here, okay? These are some elders and our men of God that are really taking charge right now. And
Yes.
I am so happy that I can help implement this structure. So, Uncle Stoney, we really would like to have like some type of safe responders plan
Yes, ma'am.
we can implement in the churches, because we did go to a meeting with all the faith leaders in Atlanta.
Fake leader.
The faith leaders in Atlanta.
Names
that-
have been changed to protect the guilty.
I'm trying to tell you, everybody ain't able, we willing to serve the Lord, okay? And we have a big opium academic going on right now. And I don't want to be a part of programs that we bring it in that we are just feeding them the drugs, okay?
Oh, we can list the judge. Fentanyl,
Oh, man,
opium.
fentanyl
Narcotics are
and
high right
opium
now.
has been high rated because they're putting this stuff on their marijuana, they're putting it in the foods. People are just accidentally touching it and dying.
Yeah.
You know, so in that state, Rambo and Uncle Stoney, with the safety respond plan, we can say, well, this is a 10-step program. Okay? In this 10-step program, coming through the faith-based leaders, we know that we can send them there as a safe haven, even with the ones that are coming out of jail.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but when you say they're coming out of jail, before they come out of jail, there needs to be some kind of system before they get out of jail.
I don't disagree
And they
with
need
you.
to have some kind of schooling in the jail about this program they're going to get into when they get out of jail.
When they get out, yeah, and I think we're on the same page here. But I really am focusing on the ones that are already conditioned out of jail, that are stuck in the ripple of the
They have
academic-
halfway houses.
You know, but they're not working, Uncle Stoney.
Those are state programs.
Yeah, and they are. We are going to be the change. We can have our own program housed at our church where we are actually seeing those steps that you guys are talking about that you can help us implement. And I'm excited. So I want to ask a couple more questions.
Let me tie into that just if I could real quick. So those who are watching from the faith-based community know that I'm one of the first, and I'm a expert on helping to protect houses of worship, and have trained many armor-bearer ministries across the city in faith-based protective measures for protecting the house of God on Sunday morning.
Right.
With that, a lot of other programs came from behind that initiative. I was featured on the Atlanta International Broadcasting with the faith-based leaders from the Muslim community to the Christian community. And nonetheless, what we did, we established some other programs that taught children their rights in terms of how to interact with police.
Right.
Taught them in terms of, I can't say and take credit that we did something substance abuse, but this is where churches as nonprofit organizations can now partner with the sheriff's office and say, hey, we are that tie to the community that says we will take them in rehabilitation.
Community unity, baby. I tell you.
We can't do it all because my job specifically as enumerated by law is jail, courts, and law enforcement. Rehabilitation is not in the scope or the dynamic of the criminal justice system.
Right.
That comes into community-based organizations like churches.
I do have a couple of questions that I want to get answered on the table before we wrap this thing up. I do want to know, what are your thoughts about the school to prison pipeline? And this is for both of you gentlemen, so we'll start with you. Rambo, let us know what you think about that.
Well, I was one of the persons that was called by Miss Donna Lowry on Channel 11.
Donna Lowry. Okay.
And we were making comment about during the APS school situation that happened. And I remember Dr. Beverly Hall saying to me specifically, directly.
I remember Beverly Hall,
Yes.
girl. We love you, girl. I know.
She said
Rest
to
in
me,
peace.
She said, Mr. Rambo, would you realize that third grade test scores are what is the indicator of how many bed spaces are going to be built over a 25-year period? Third grade test scores.
Third grade?
If you can't grasp it in the third grade, if you don't get it in the third grade, then you have essentially become lost and considered counted out, and you can be trajectoried towards the Fulton County Jail or any other jail. And that's what we see over here at 901 Wright Street today. And now that also ties into not just the prison pipeline, but the privatization of prisons, that now we're essentially suing counties and courts for not sending enough bodies. We have 901 Wright Street that is overwhelmed with bodies, and now we're talking about to the point of sending them to Mississippi,
That's
sending
ridiculous.
them to Florida.
That's ridiculous.
You're telling me that we can't handle our own criminal justice system here, that we have
That's
to ferret out
ridiculous.
black bodies, all of 89.3%
In a
of
whole nother
bodies?
sociology of people, background, places, and things.
So again, where do
Yeah.
we get community to get back involved? Because it can't just fall on the criminal justice system.
It really can. And I mean, Uncle Stoney, do you have some views on this this school to pipeline situation too as well? You made a great point too, Rambo. That
Yeah,
was
you have
awesome.
to you have to understand that if you're going to be a mentor with these kids, you can't be just one event mentor. These kids have to have your phone number. They have to rely on you for everything. If they don't have any
Right.
sneakers, you got to take them some sneakers.
That's right.
If they don't have any books, you got to take them some books.
That's right.
And sometimes you have to take them from that community, show them something different.
Mm-hmm.
I used to take them out to my house and let them mow my grass. The one little guy, I can remember, Mr. Philpott, graduated from Grady, and I was there, and I said, "I'm so proud of you." His mother was out, and he was being brought up by his grandmother, and he said right back to me, he says, "I'm proud of myself," because he didn't have parents,
You hear me?
so he had to be proud of himself.
That's beautiful.
And with a sheriff like Rambo, who has been in those situations, he knows that there needs to be an open door policy,
Mm-hmm.
and so he will reach out to these pastors, to all of these
And we need
nonprofits,
somebody that's gonna
and he
be
would say,
hands-on
"Okay,
like
look,
you, Rambo,
your
you know?
person is inside this jail. We're gonna contact him inside this jail and make sure that he's in these programs.
Righteous.
We want you to work from the outside, and we're gonna work from the inside."
That's right, and that's what we want to build here. So with you guys giving us such a great insight on who you guys are, what you do in our community, because we get so much negative controversy about our officers, and you guys are the VIPs in my book that know the real actual facts on what's going on behind the scenes, in the street, in the community, in the church base, in the faith base, and now with your girl Edrinna Marie on Real Talk, Real Stories, in the building at Reverb Hard Rock with my favorite two guys in the world. We got Rambo that's running for sheriff, guys. Make sure you go out there and
Fulton
vote.
County.
Fulton County. We coming for you. And my Uncle Stoney. And I'll give Uncle Stoney your real name, his real name later on. But I'm not playing with him. If you want to know Kevin Ashford, you can look him up yourself. But that's my uncle, and he has such great pellet friends. Thank you so much, Rambo, for coming in.
May I close out giving my information?
That's what I was about to say. If you can give us your information, let us
Sure.
know how to contact you. Guys, please, it's voting time. Go out and be the change. These sheriffs that's been in place for these decades have been doing the jobs that they can do on the capacity of the information that's been provided for them. Now we're going to have someone that's rooted, booted, and trained to go. You understand? So Rambo is not playing with us about sharing all of the insights on what we need to know as a community to be the change for the people, okay? So go ahead and close us out. Let us know how we can contact you.
Yes, you can contact me, and this is the uniqueness of my race is that I am actually running as a write-in candidate in the November race. I'm not going to be on this primary ballot.
Okay.
I want you to be able to listen to the narratives presented on that platform, but be ready for November,
Be ready for
where
November.
you will meet thunder and lightning at
Thunder
that
and
portion of time.
lightning, baby.
You could go to my website at write-in Charles Rambo write-in Charles Rambo 24.us. I'll say it again, write-in Charles Rambo.us. I might say that right. Write-in Rambo 24.us or send in Rambo 24.us. You can learn more about the Constitutional Sheriff Initiative.
That's right.
I am the sheriff that already has a name.
You
You don't
hear
have
me?
to worry about seeing my name on the side of cars, on badges, patches, or what have you. It's a name that you can work with. It's a name that already establishes authority. A name like that means authority in bringing back law and order
Charles
to the community that we deserve.
Rambo.
I'm going to vote for him.
He has my vote, okay? And guys, you know my vote means a lot for the world, okay? Because I serve the Lord, okay? So make sure you guys get out here and vote. Be the change, be the pillars, but get informed and get these great issues that you do have in your community answered and delivered by our new sheriff for Fulton County. We're going to speak that. Rambo is definitely in the building. So we'll see you guys in a little bit. Uncle Stanley, did you have something to say? He's shouting us out. This is your girl, Edrinna Marie. Real talk, real stories here at Reverb Radio Hard Rock. And we're out.